The hit musical Spring Awakening is back on Broadway, but not like you've ever seen it before. The new production is put on by the Deaf West Theatre, and it contains American Sign Language as well as spoken English. Take a look.
Moritz, Steve up! I need hardly remind you that of all our pupils, you are in no position to be taking liberties. I will not warn you again!
God, I dreamed there was an angel who could hear me through the wall as I cried out like in Latin, this is so not life at all. Help me out of this nightmare. Then I heard her silver call. She said, just give it time, kid, I come to one and all. She said, give me that hand, please, an itch you can't control. Let me teach you how to handle all the sadness in your soul. Oh, we'll work that silver magic, then we'll aim it at the wall. She said, love may make you blind, kid, but I wouldn't mind at all. It's a bitch of living, bitch, just a bitch. Nothing but your hand, just a bitch, yeah. Just a bitch of living, as someone you can't stand.
I'm delighted to be joined by two of the show's stars. Daniel Durant and Alex Boniello, who play Moritz, are here, along with Deaf West's artistic director, DJ Kurs, and interpreters Candace Broker-Penn and Lynette Taylor. Thanks so much for being here. I saw Spring Awakening on the West End in the original production, and then saw this one and was completely blown away. So much of the show is about misunderstandings, about trying to understand one another. Is that why you chose Spring Awakening? How did it come about?
Yes, exactly. This wasn't written for deaf people, of course. Stephen Sater and Duncan Shake wrote it, and they wrote it for a hearing audience. But 2 years ago, our director, Michael Arden, came to me with the idea, and Stephen Sater, and they proposed that Deaf West take it on. And they told me it was a story about communication. It's the struggle between adults and children. And I thought, absolutely, that does parallel a deaf experience. So in the first scene, the mother doesn't explain to the daughter how to have a baby, and that's such a parallel to the deaf world because they don't learn information from the parents because the parents often don't sign, and it just took off from there.
So how do you then go about trying to transpose this classic play that has won so many Tony Awards in New York and was so popular in London, and has such a great score, into a scenario where you're working with deaf actors?
We didn't change one word. We worked it with the deaf actors and they rehearsed together with the hearing actors. It all worked out, it made sense. There's a historical moment that we emphasized in the play. In 1880s, there was a Milan conference where they emphasized oral education for deaf children, and this play takes place in that time period. So it's wonderful that deaf people can see that moment played out on stage, and there was that time where you weren't allowed to sign in school, you couldn't do it, you had to learn how to speak, and so it's been a great way to expose audiences to that.
Daniel, how did the experience come about for you?
One of the best experiences of my whole life. I was never involved in musical theater. I'm not even interested in music. I'm profoundly deaf. I can't hear a note. I can't hear a thing. And when I got the role for Spring Awakening, I knew I knew that it was famous. I knew that it won Tonys, but I didn't really know what the story was about and how deep it was. And Maritz's character is very deep. So I'm wearing that character that's very deep, and now I'm doing music, which I've never done before. I'm deaf. How am I going to do this? And we had an ASL master and coaches. We had a wonderful choreographer and an amazing voice, Alex, the singer, and this combination made it just an unbelievable experience.
And how do you guys communicate during the show?
Well, when we first met, he didn't know sign language at all, Alex. So we sat together, read the script together. We went line by line. I would sign and he would watch me, and that was the beginning of it. And we first just bonded, and then by the time we got to Broadway, we share a room. So he's in a room with 3 deaf actors. So, I mean, he's exposed to sign language all the time, so that's how he's learning now.
I know that there are some moments in the show where, for example, you have to cue something to a note or to a music or to a beat. You have to jump off a ladder at precisely the right time. How do you do that when you can't hear the beats of what's going on?
We have different ways of cueing each other through choreography, blocking, movement. For example, when I stand on the bed, there's another person who is standing. When they kneel and stand back up, I know that's my cue to jump. We've designed all these different cues. We have lighting cues that tell us our next move. Alex also cues me when he gives me the 1, 2, 3 on his chest, and then I know what line we're on, which bar. If I'm going too fast, if I'm ahead of him, he'll give me cues to speed up, slow down. Really, it's been an intense rehearsal process. And, I'm just kinetically now in finding the rhythm. It's just part of me now, what the music is. I'm not usually ahead of him, but there are those moments when it happens, and he lets me know.
Can you feel the music? It's very loud.
Yes, I can feel it, the vibrations.
Yeah.
I don't want to depend on the vibrations, though, because it takes me out of my character. I want to stay in my character.
Yeah. Alex, when you first heard about this project, did a little part of you think, what the hell are they doing?
Well, actually, no. The first time I had heard about it was when they were starting to get people together for that 99-seat production, because I had known someone who was going to be putting it together, and I remember I read all the breakdowns of what characters would be deaf, what characters would not be deaf, and I was just thinking about how smart it all kind of seemed, just because when you do break it down to it being a show about communication and a lack thereof, it makes a lot of sense that Melchior, this character who's been given a lot of information, would be a hearing actor who can also sign, and then characters like Venla and Moritz would not have that information, so something isn't totally coming together for them, and it works as beautifully as I kind of dreamed that it would. And I remember being in New York, seeing the reviews for that first production, and I was like, oh, they got it right. People really, really like this thing. And then a few months later, by the universe being crazy, I'm here.
How's your sign language coming along?
It's all right. It's fine. It's okay. No, but it's. I would say that I'm conversational. Certainly not fluent. A lot of times I'll have to ask Daniel for show me a sign or something like that. I'll very frequently do some weird hybrid of actual signs, charading because I don't know what else to do, and then finger spelling, and then asking for a sign, and then he'll show me a sign. I'll do it back and then immediately forget it 3 seconds later.
Yeah.
Which is the goal not to do, but it's a very complex language and it's tough.
Yeah. We love to bring in fans here, and we have a few who want to talk to you and who want to ask you some questions. First up is Alyssa Eblund. Alyssa, hey.
Hi.
Jump in. Do you have a question for the cast or for DJ?
Yeah, I was just wondering, how did the casting go for this show? How did you decide, I don't know, I guess, how did you pick? Was it a normal, a call, a cattle call, or did you have people come in?
Yes, we did have all those things. We had normal auditions. We had a cattle call in the sense that it was video auditions. We asked people to send us video members, and we looked at a screen, and if we liked them, then we would call them in. And also, people had production conflicts. That's how we added new actors along the way. And at the same time, during auditions, we looked at the hearing actors to see if they had an ability to sign. We would give them a line and see what they would do with it. And so we would see people with some people had 2 left hands. We thought, oh, maybe not going to work. So we looked at that. That was an additional level that we were conscious of, and that might have been a little bit different.
And what are you looking for in an actor, DJ?
I'm looking for the ability to really express, to connect to the character, to express themselves. And it takes a person that's willing to engage, right? We have 2 people that are creating 1 character, and that's an important aspect in our company. So again, and first and foremost, I'm looking at talent, of course. And does it match the role and what I envision?
How did you guys manage that collaboration of essentially coming together in a symbiosis and being a single unit, a single character, a single individual?
Well, it's important to say that I joined for the second production out of 3. There was the 99-seat in Los Angeles, then a bigger one in Beverly Hills, which is where I joined. And it was interesting for me because Daniel had already done so much of the work because he had done it already, and I was replacing an actor who had another job opportunity come up. So I was kind of jumping in, not knowing what to expect, and we found that it worked really well for me to just watch his signing and kind of see what that is because, like a lot of people, I had seen the show previously when it was on Broadway, and I had done a regional production of the show, so I knew the character already, but now I needed to learn what Daniel's version of this character was. So it took a lot of me watching and trying to match him and find him, and then I follow him as best I can because that seems to be what works and tells this character's story the best, and then with things like specific timing for jokes or something like that, just because there's a comedic timing to like the English language that Daniel, needs help understanding. So that's kind of where I like to think that I brought the most for him, being like, ooh, if we wait like one more second before you start signing, I think it'll work, and then we'll go backstage after the scene and he'll be like, how did that work? And I was like, oh, they loved it. Or, oh, maybe we should wait a little longer next time or something. But
That's an interesting idea, I think, Daniel, that comedic timing could differ between languages.
Absolutely, it is different.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about that? Do you want to elaborate on that? Because I'm just thinking about the languages that I speak, and I don't think that there would be a difference between spoken languages.
Well, there is a difference, yes, of course. I think in sign language, we tend to be wearing our emotions on our sleeves, so to speak. We're more direct, we're more honest, compared to what I would think spoken language people do, which can be, they can have a subtext or have something implied, and sometimes I think deaf humor and hearing humor can be different and based on those things. On stage in our show, we try to find that sweet spot, which works for everybody, and we hit both at the same time.
Also, American Sign Language is such a visual language. It's a modality. So what's funny to a hearing audience and what's funny to a deaf audience isn't always the same.
Right.
Because we're so visual and so expressive, we're going to show our emphasis.
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about often, Alex and I, because the English lines, the two languages, compression and expansion in the two languages are also different. One concept in English may take longer, as you're seeing now, than in ASL, right? Right.
Yeah, we're waiting for that English to finish. Right, American Sign Language is different than English because English is so linear. In ASL, we can present things in a three-dimensional space, emphasizing the face, the visual grammar, sign space. We really can compress our signs, and so as you're seeing me sign a man walking, or I can do sort of a close-up of a man walking, or a long shot of it. There are different ways that we can express one thing in sign language, and that is different than English.
Fascinating. We have a video question coming in from Brittany. Let's take a look at that.
Hi, I was just wondering if you guys had any pre-show rituals that help you guys get in sync and in character.
Yes, we do. I need to get quiet. That's my time for quiet, contemplative time. Sometimes Alex and I will talk about, we'll review what we need to change from the last show. But really what we do is rest. I think that's my pre-show ritual, just the quiet time.
It's funny hearing you say that you need to get quiet because you're deaf.
Let's see. Well, what I mean is no distractions.
I
What I meant by quiet.
I understand.
No
I get it.
distraction. No
Yeah.
one tapping me on the shoulder saying, I need you to look at me.
I think that deaf people are often thought to have such silent lives, and it's so far from the truth.
Absolutely.
We make a lot
Very
of
noisy
noise.
life.
Yeah.
Alex, do you have any pre-show rituals?
I like to get there a bit early, earlier than I have in previous shows that I've worked on, just because, not to be like really actory about it, but like I like to be there early to kind of get back into a world with my friends who are deaf, because throughout most of the day, unless I'm hanging out with these guys, I really probably won't encounter a deaf person. So it's really good for me to get to the room, maybe take a little nap. Then Miles, Josh, the other two boys we share a dressing room with, and Daniel will show up, and then I'm watching them sign, I'm signing with them, and it kind of just like brings me back into a world that is still new to me, and it helps me kind of just get our two worlds meet in the middle and kind of remember what this story is about and how to tell it, I think.
Daniel, when you were growing up and you wanted, did you want to add something to that?
Oh yeah, I just want to add something he's saying. So you're lucky you're with all these deaf actors, because he could practice his singing and it doesn't bother us at all, right? You can be off key and go whatever. So he gets his own little corner because the next room can hear him singing, and I go ahead. It doesn't bother me.
When you were growing up and you wanted to be an actor, did you have, what was Broadway to you? Was Broadway an aspiration? Was Broadway even something that you ever dreamed that you would be able to be on as a deaf actor?
My dream was to become an actor and to tour, but I never thought of Broadway. I never thought that was even possible. And everything has happened so quickly, I can't believe that we've arrived. It's a dream come true, absolutely a dream come true. I've been wanting to be an actor since I was 9 years old. I went to a school, a general education school, where I was the only deaf person. It was hard to socialize. We're such different cultures. So because I was on my own, I kind of went to drawing and art. Then I went to acting, and a director asked me to be in a play. And the moment I was in it, I found my calling. That was it, and what I've been doing ever since.
DJ, what was the process of coming to Broadway? Did you ever have expectations that you would be able to bring this to Broadway, and how did it pan out?
Really, we were very fortunate. It's been a one-year journey. I mean, we just opened in the fall of 2014. And 1 year later, that's when we opened on Broadway. I mean, that almost never happens in real life, right?
Yeah.
So it was extremely fortunate. And also the result of a lot of hard work. Our actors, our creative team, our director, our ASL masters, the choreographer. I mean, really, we all worked together. We made this happen. It made such an event, you couldn't ask for more. And now we're wondering, what we can do next. What's the next thing we're going to build on? We don't want this to, we don't want to lose the momentum.
Yeah, the bad thing about reaching Broadway is there's nowhere to go that's further up.
Yes. And I do see more opportunities opening up, and I think for deaf actors in the future, though. I'm excited about this production. I think it's opened a lot of doors. Having Marlee Matlin, who is one of the most famous deaf actors in history, in the history of the deaf world anyway, is in our show. And I hope it leads to 10 more Marlee Matlins out there.
Yeah. We've got another video question coming in from Rebecca. Let's take a look.
Hi, Daniel. My question was, what is your favorite part about being in Spring Awakening and why? And if you could do the experience all over again, would you? Thanks, bye.
My favorite part, I think, would be Don't Do Sadness. Because that song is so powerful, and it also is a powerful image and it's a powerful moment between Alex and I to bond. It's very challenging to do the song. There are a lot of cues in it that I have to make sure work, hit, and Wallace is in the Wallace Theater. Sometimes it was such a struggle in the Wallace Theater. But it gave us time to work out all the kinks, and working through the kinks were one of my process, and was one of my favorite parts of the process. And also working with Ilse is one of my favorite moments. Because my personality. I was of the characters that I don't, my personal personality experience is that I don't understand darkness. I have a beautiful family, a loving family, I'm happy, while Moritz is quite the opposite. He is in this dark world and doesn't have positive relationships in his life. So to wear that character and then to sing the song or sign the song, Don't Do Sadness, I really begin to understand what that world of darkness is like and inhabit that world of darkness. It's a powerful experience.
Does that resonate with you, Alex, or did you have more experience with darkness? Do you have a sunnier life as Daniel did?
I mean, I think everybody has things that in their life that they have an interesting time dealing with. I mean, like I've spoken to Daniel before. I personally have anxiety, so a lot of times before the show, I'll just have one of those days where I'm feeling like a little just about everything. And so that's something we've spoken about, and something that we've talked about this character going through as well. On top of everything else, he's dealing with all these things he doesn't know how to deal with all at once, on top of, in this production, him being a deaf person who's being denied language in so many ways. So it's really important, I think, for anyone who is an actor to kind of find whatever version of that is for themselves and to use it. So for Daniel, coming from a basis of sign language and such an expressive language, I think there's something really amazing about him being able to explore it through this visceral, strong language, and then me with whatever it is that I go through in my daily life or whatever, I can give voice to that in my own way, while he's giving voice to it in his own way, and having two people come together to make one thing is very special, I think.
I want to take a look at a few tweets here. This is Laura Wald writing, saw Deaf West production of Spring Awakening on Broadway, convinced it should never be staged any other way again. A powerful must-see. Broadway girl, dude, this is a Hamilton-sized crowd, with a photo of of that. And Rebecca Jean, Spring Awakening performs at the White House, and there you are at the White House. DJ, what was that experience like?
We were, again, fortunate to be invited. Again, it was the part of the anniversary of the 25th year for the Americans with Disability Act, and they were honoring deaf artists and wanted us to be a part of that. We were pleased to be there. It was a very small stage, as you just saw in the picture. As you saw that front row. It's like so small. It reminded me of back where we started at that 99-seat theater. It was a very emotional experience.
Daniel, do you want to add to that?
I feel the same way. it was really such an honor to be there. And I'm thinking, I'm at the White House. We're at the White House. I mean, I could actually sign this. I can tell the world I'm at the White House. This is amazing. It was almost hard to put into words. Afterwards, I met so many, politicians, disabled people, and the support was so powerful. It was one of the most beautiful experiences in my life that I will never forget.
Well, congratulations on the show. It's so innovative and it's so entertaining, and thanks so much for being on HuffPost Live. It's great to talk to you guys.
Thank you.
He said thank you.
And thank you guys. Stay tuned for plenty more conversations coming up right here on HuffPost Live.